Where boots hit the deck, stories take flight. Welcome to the Barracks Life, a podcast that brings you authentic stories from the men and women who've walked the path of military service. Today, we're joined with someone whose story we're about to discover together. Before we meet our guest, here's something you might not know about. 31 out of 45 presidents who have served have worn the uniform of our nation's military. Leaders who understand service before they led. Just like those presidents, every person who serves carries a story that shapes not just our own life, but the lives of those around them. Whether our guests served in the skies, on the seas, or on the ground, their journey is worth hearing. I'm your host, former Sergeant Kit Lovan, Marine Corps veteran, and today we're honored to have Jyro sharing his unique journey with us. So Jyro, thanks for being with us today at the show. Before we dive into your military experience, let's let listeners know a little bit about yourself. Where you grew up, what was life like before the service? Did you have any other future plans? Just a little snapshot about you.
Yeah, absolutely. Former information technician, petty officer first class, Jyro Francisco. Our things in the Navy are so long, and I don't understand why our rank is so long. But former IT1, that's usually how the Navy will say out our ranks along with our positions. But yeah, growing up, I'm a military brat. So my pops was in the Army for 23 years.
Wow.
I was born in Germany, and then we moved around everywhere. Yeah, it was the craziest thing growing up. We were
I'm
in
guessing
Germany.
Army?
Yeah, Army. A lot of my younger years was in Germany, in Bavaria, in Schweinfurt. That base isn't active anymore, but they actually decommissioned it a few years ago. But we moved around to California. We were in Hawaii. My dad was going over to Iraq, Afghanistan a lot. He was in Korea. Yeah, a lot of movement growing up. But for my family, my mom, my sister, we stayed heavily like in Germany and then California. Towards the ending of my middle school, we ended up moving to Sacramento, and that was going to be the last place that we PCS to. And we stayed in Sacramento. Well, actually, my dad's still in Sacramento. He has a house over there. And then I ended up joining right shortly after high school. My mom didn't want me to join at all, actually. It's kind of funny. She made this whole thing when I was in high school, like, oh, I don't want you joining the Army. I don't want you dying. I don't want you being away from us. But I told my mom I was like doing terrible in high school at the time. I was telling her like, no, I'm going to join. It's fine. Like, I'm going to make a name for myself. I want to serve. I want to do my part.
Yeah.
And right when I turned 18, I went to the recruiter's office like on my birthday and I signed the contract. Yeah.
Nice.
I came home and my mom knew what I had done, and she just ran to her bedroom and collapsed and then started crying her eyes out.
Oh, no.
But, it all worked out. I ended up depping in February of 2016. Then I graduated and went to Pensacola, Florida for IT, A school, C school. I was part of an experimental class. We had like the A school plus a C school. I know for Marines, you guys have A school, C school. And generally with the Navy too, that's the pipeline for sailors as well, going through an A school, C school. Because I was a 6Y. I signed on for 6 years. But I ended up doing a combination of the two. I ended up doing a digital tutor. And it was actually really cool because I ended up meeting one of the guys who first created the internet.
No.
Yeah. He
Cool.
was part of the team. I think there were 2 universities from how he was telling the story and how they first created the internet. He was part of the team that was like at UCLA, and they were building up the servers and the infrastructure for what we know now as the World Wide Web.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was one of the guys who ran the whole course for digital tutor in the Navy. So that's pretty awesome.
That is cool, man. So you said you joined straight out of high school, right?
Yeah.
Did you have any other plans or goals or interests other than the military? And did you know you were going into the Navy?
Not really, to be honest. When I was in the middle of high school, I was blessed because I had a lot of direction pretty early on in my life, as opposed to a lot of people who graduate high school and then they experiment out in college. I was pretty much a high academia student. So I was going to like AP and honors classes, but I was doing terrible in them. Like I was mediocre, average C, D student in those AP classes. And I was like telling my mom, I was like, Mom, please let me just go to normal classes so I can succeed in the normal class. And she's like, no, Balong, I need you to go to these honors AP courses. So she was very big on like, succeeding in academics. And I was like a 4.5 GPA student from elementary all the way in the middle and then the beginning of my high school year. And then somewhere along the lines, through youth, going through puberty and stuff, just going through an emotional time as a young man, I just derailed my life and my academics. And I stopped doing homework. There was a lot of things I was doing wrong out in the streets that I shouldn't have been doing.
Yeah.
I was just not making my parents proud, So along junior year of my high school, that's when I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to join the military.
Yeah.
I'm going to join the military and I'm just going to see where it takes me.
Nice.
I heard from the recruiters that, yes men live very interesting lives. So from the late junior year of my high school to senior year on to boot camp, I was pretty much like a yes man. And I lived a very interesting life up until, I got out.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome. And what made you decide on Navy? Because you said your father was in the Army.
Yeah. It's funny. I wanted to join the Air Force. Yeah. I heard it was like one of the safest branches and, Chair Force didn't do anything. But the guys at the recruiter's office, it's funny because Air Force was right across from 3 competitive recruiting stations for the Air Force and then the Marines.
Mm-hmm.
Army was off somewhere else. So I was first talking to the Air Force and it was strange because I'm 5'8" and I was 160 pounds at that time because I was doing some sports, but they told me I was too fat. And I was like, what are you guys talking about? I'm slimmed down. I can run 2 miles. It doesn't make sense. But they weren't looking to recruit anyone at that time. And right across, like I said, it was the Navy. And I was kind of shopping around. So I spoke to the Navy guys and I told them I want to go into a more technical field that I can transition very well into civilian life. And my recruiter, I won't forget this dude. He kind of like hung out with me a lot and we played video games together. He tried hard for that number. But yeah, Mark Carlson, that's his name. He was an MM2 at the time. I think he just made chief. So Mark, if you're listening to this, congratulations.
Yeah, there you go, Mark.
But yeah, he walked through the whole path of my recruiting journey. And actually, I tried signing up when I was 17. So the first talk of me joining the military, I wasn't even an adult yet. I was still in high school. Mark and his buddy, FC1 Schmidt, they would come by to my house and tried convincing my mom to like let me join. It's a good thing. It's a good deal. There's benefits. We're going to take care of him. It's going to be great. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, no, I don't want him joining. Yeah, it didn't really occur to me about like the branches and their rivalry and stuff. Because when I went to the Marine recruiting office, they were super hard on, I don't want to see you over there in the Navy side. Like, you're going to come to me and just talk to me. And okay, yeah, I can do. All the while, I'm like texting these guys like, yeah, so when can we sit down and sign stuff? Yeah, the jobs that the Navy was offering, it just seemed more enticing to me. I didn't plan on doing IT. I wanted to either follow in my dad's footsteps of going engineering or going into the medical field. Surprise, being Filipino. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't say that.
Yeah. Yeah. So my half brother, he's a nurse, and my dad actually double majored in electrical engineering and mechanical engineering in the Philippines. So there was a lot of big footsteps to fill in regards to academics. My sister was off to college already, and I was the only one who didn't go to college. So when I joined the military, the plan was to work it, go to college during the service, and then get out or stay in, kind of all up in the air. The first job that they told me about, though, was IT. They were looking for a bunch of ITs. And from how my recruiter described the job to me, he was like, yeah, you're just going to be in an office with AC and you're not going to be doing anything crazy. You're just going to be punching numbers on a keyboard. Sounds good to me.
There you go.
So I signed up and I went in depth. And then at Corey Station in Pensacola, IWTC, Information Warfare Training Command in Pensacola, Florida. When I first got to Florida, we passed by NAS.
Yeah.
Super nice base. And I thought, oh man, we're going to go with this super cool base. It's super nice. There's sun, palm trees, close to the beach. And then we keep driving past that base. I'm like, oh no, where are we going now? But I digress. I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah. So I ended up joining the Navy just because they were the ones to entertain me and they gave me a job I was kind of interested in.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you actually shopped around. That's my advice for anyone who's listening here or anybody really is if you're interested in the Navy or in the military, shop around.
Yeah.
Ask, learn, and just get as much information from actual people rather than the internet. Yeah, shop around. There's nothing wrong. It's like looking for insurance.
Yeah, it
shop
is.
around, you get the best price for the best coverage. Because I know I didn't do that, and I don't regret anything by any means. But it's just a smart move to do.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for my naval career. It's how I met my wife. It's how I got the career path that I'm in now. I mean, I'm full-fledged into IT now. Yeah, I'm doing contracting with the government right now. But I am very, very grateful for my naval career.
Yeah.
When I was shopping around...
Did the other branches try to entice you over?
Yeah, they did. The only one that didn't really try winning me over was the Air Force because they weren't looking for anybody. But my two biggest branches that were on my mind was probably Marines and the Navy. I didn't even try talking to the Army because the reason why we went to Sacramento is because he was a recruiter. And so my dad knew everybody at the recruiting station near Sacramento.
That's why you didn't even want to show your face.
Yeah. Because my dad knew, and he would get an earful from my mom knowing that I was talking to any of his buddies at the Army recruiting station. So the Army was the only one I didn't talk to in regards to, getting into the service.
So you're mainly just hiding from your mom.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, a lot of my life was actually geared towards proving people wrong. Being younger, of all the working class family members that I had at the time, there wasn't a lot to my name. Filipinos are always big on talking and chismising or, bragging about their children.
Gossiping.
Yeah, gossiping. That's the word.
Look what I created.
Yeah. Look what my son did. Look what my daughter did. Oh, look at this prestigious place that my son is going to. And me being like CD average student, there wasn't much to brag about. So my sister was getting a lot of the credit at the time. My half brother was getting a lot of the credit, just finishing his degree and her going to college. So with me being kind of like the black sheep of my family, I wanted to prove everybody wrong. So when I went into the Navy, I kind of dove head first and trying to rank up the fastest and achieve the most that I could in the short time that I was in.
Yeah, it's weird that a lot of Asian families are like that.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that mine wasn't. Thanks to my mom.
God bless you.
She's very just mellowed. But yeah, that can happen. I've seen it happen a lot of times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you join in, right? You're 18 years old, right? Going off to boot camp. Where was your boot camp at?
My boot camp was in Illinois.
Illinois.
Yeah, and I went during the winter.
Okay, I was about to ask that. So in the winter, you were in Sacramento, so you kind of know what cold is like.
Yeah.
So
being in Germany, I knew what cold was.
Okay, yeah. So you're good. You're well versed, right, with that kind of stuff. So yeah, you get to boot camp. Tell us what your first thoughts of boot camp.
Oh man, boot camp was a crazy time. There was a lot of hazing. There was a lot of hazing, and I was surprised that was still around. I kind of made it a point in my head, being a lot younger than a lot of the guys that were joining, like whatever they got going on, whatever ceremonies or things that you need to do, like I'm going to try to do it. So that yes man mentality that I was talking about.
Yes man.
Yeah. So when I first get to boot camp back in, what was it? Yeah, February. Got to Illinois in February. They shaved our heads. They had us stand in line. And I get into my division.
Were they yelling at you or anything?
Yeah. Okay. Of
Okay.
course, they were yelling at us. It was tiring. We got there super late at night, and we were up for a little over 24 hours straight. Every boot camp I feel as though does that to their recruits the first day they get there. I remember something that replays in my mind was I was one of the last people that had to do the piss test. So they make us line up to get all their vaccinations and everything and do the piss test. And that was probably the first and last time I ever was shy pissing. It was the craziest thing. I needed to go, but I could not go no matter how hard I tried, no matter how hard the RDCs, that's what we call them, our recruit drill coordinators. Our RDCs are just yelling at us. He's like, "You can't take a piss." He's like, "No, petty officer, I can't." And then we end up going to, it's kind of a blur. I'm trying to remember now. Didn't even think about trying to remember back to my boot camp days. But yeah, we end up going to these big buildings and these recruiting halls. I can't remember the recruiting hall that I went to, but I was in an all-male division. And you usually don't see that anymore. They usually have these mixed divisions with, men and women. But I was part of the building that had all men. And so my RDCs was Chief Petty Officer U. I'm pretty sure he's retired now. And then I had a BM1 and then an HM1. Oh my goodness. These guys were insane. Literally. HM1, I think his name was Witt. I think he's out now, so I don't mind talking about them. But HM1, this dude was riddled with PTSD, and you can see it. We called him Petty Officer Bouncy Ball because he always had a anger little rubber ball, and he would bounce it wherever he went. Yeah, and whenever
you guys just called them amongst you recruits.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. When we're addressing them in boot camp, you have to say their rank first, your sentence, and then finish it with their rank. So if we were talking to our first RDC, right? Chief Petty Officer, blase, whatever you have to say, and then you end it with Chief Petty Officer.
Wow.
So if you needed to ask to use a restroom, we're Chief Petty Officer, Seaman, Recruit, Francisco requesting to use the restroom, Chief Petty Officer. Yeah, and it was like that the whole time, unless it was Sundays, and then we were a little bit more lax.
That makes sense because that's when you go on the boat, you salute the flag and you talk to the person.
Yep.
You salute the flag and you go back on the boat.
In the fleet, though, it's a lot more lax. I was a West Coast sailor the entire time, and I never went to the East Coast. East Coast is a lot harder on their sailors, so they care more about the tradition and they care more about the small things like hands in pockets. But being West Coast, there was an emphasis on doing your job and doing your job well. We won't really care about a lot of the small stuff like haircuts and everything, shave, but there was a very large emphasis on quality of work. And I noticed it almost immediately when interacting with East Coast sailors after boot camp. There was kind of a gap in technical knowledge, but they were always squared away. They always had their haircut super nice, their uniforms are super clean, their boots were always polished. Yeah. I didn't even think we had to polish our boots in the Navy.
Really?
Yeah, so one of the shocking things going back to boot camp was polishing our boots. Because all the service members that I've ever seen through my family, Army and Air Force mainly, I had a handful of Navy guys, but they were officers and they were either pilots or they were recon, special units. And I feel like my families are a bunch of thrill seekers, so they did a lot of stuff like that. But I never see them with black leather boots. It was always the hide, the leather ones, and no one ever talked about polishing anything. They had their service shoes, and I figured, okay, yeah. Everyone that I saw, they had the what are those super glossy shoes called? The
core frames.
Yeah, core frames. Yeah, they always had those kinds of shoes. So I figured, we're gonna get some of these. Nope, we got the super dull leather boots, super dull leather shoes, and we had to polish them. Majority of my time in boot camp outside of the digital courses and doing battleship, which is like our graduation final exam, was polishing that I remember very well.
So you spent polishing your boots in boot
Yeah,
camp.
whenever we had downtime, it was always studying our rules of century, and then it was polishing our boots or polishing our shoes. It was the only thing we could do.
You guys also learn about like the history of the Navy and things
Yeah,
like
yeah. Birthday of the Navy, SecNav, we had to memorize all that stuff. We had watches in boot camp, even though we were inside of a building
Yeah.
because Illinois is so cold. And the OOD of the quarterdeck, so they're on a ship. The OOD is the first person that you'll see when going onto the boat. When you cross the brow, you're going to see a sailor. Usually it's going to be like a chief, a first class, or an officer. And they're the first line of defense. And they're also the first representative of the ship that you see.
that. Mhm.
So we kind of shape our divisional building like a boat.
Right.
So the OOD, being a drill instructor, or an RDC, I should say, they would come by to the compartments, and that was our rooms that all of our recruits were in. My division was 159. So they would come by to the doors, and they would literally question them, like, what's your first general order? What's your
Yeah.
second general order? And then we had a roving watch, and they would come inside the compartment. They would question the roving watch too.
That's cool. We did the same thing in the Marines.
Oh man, it was the worst just from memorizing that stuff. I was always one of those kids that was never good at studying. I always kind of like learned it first time and then it stuck.
Wow.
And so I was very blessed in that regard. Like I memorized everything first time
Yeah,
told.
good at memorizing things.
Yeah, because I
Wow.
didn't like taking notes. I didn't like taking notes. To this day, I still don't like studying and taking notes, and it's a huge problem. But yeah, it was a hard time for me just reading those general orders for hours.
You're over. For us, we read them, we write them,
Yeah.
then we're constantly yelling it at the top of our lungs anywhere we go, anytime we're asked, anytime we're still that way. It's drilled in our heads.
Oh yeah. One thing, actually, speaking of screaming, the one thing that I probably enjoyed the most is the cadences.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The cadences were awesome. You know, we had this Chuck Norris one that just killed me every single time.
You want to say it?
Oh no, dude! No,
You want to sing it?
Can't do it. I remember it was talking about like ninja punching and like just Chuck Norris being on this lone hill and holding his own. We could probably Google it, but you know.
So you guys would sing cadence while you guys are marching?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Oh.
Everywhere we went, we had to, keep our step and keep our cadence. And the person that would do that would be like the second in command of our little recruit division, and they were called the A-Rock. And the A-Rock, we ran through A-Rocks because every single A-Rock that my RDCs would choose just couldn't sing or were not loud enough, and my chief petty officer would be so pissed because we would walk by another division. It would be like a mixed division or something, and they would be louder than us.
Yeah.
We were a small division because we were all male, so it was just a game of numbers when it came to the cadence. So we'd always lose.
Yeah.
And we'd stop formation. He would scream at the A-Rock's face every single day. He's like, "You can't scream loud enough? Can you sing?" And the A-Rock would be like, "Chief Petty Officer, I can sing. Chief Petty Officer, sing to me right now." And
Buses us
just
Taylor Swift.
oh yeah, it was just embarrassment. It was the funniest thing ever, being in an all-male division. We got to, do a lot more of that. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Yeah, I see the bearded ninja. I see the bearded ninja alone upon the hill. His name was Chuck Norris, and kill I know he will. Chuck Norris. Yeah! Roundhouse kick. Yeah, that was my favorite cadence. It was my favorite cadence. That is awesome.
That was good, man. We got to
Look,
for that.
Look, I ended up singing anyways. Look at that. I just love this cadence so much. It's the funniest cadence. It was the funniest cadence ever.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. It sounds like you had a pretty memorable experience in boot camp, like good, bad, and funny, honestly.
Yeah.
Was there a person or somebody that you connected to in boot camp? Whether it be an RDO, right?
RDC.
RDC or another recruit?
No, you know what's funny? We were different from a lot of the divisions that came through. We never really meshed the way that the system was supposed to make us, you know? And what I mean by that is the whole concept of breaking one person down to build them back up.
Yeah.
When they broke us down, it was almost like we stayed there. So there's always like a pattern when you go on into a new boat and you take on a new division. So this is where the camaraderie and knowing your sailors comes into play, because you have all these people coming from very different backgrounds. A lot of times you'll have Filipinos who can't speak English, which I know to a lot of listeners might sound crazy. There's a lot of guys in the Navy who will go their whole naval career mumbling and just skating by with a very little bit of English and they'll speak a lot of Filipino. Then you have people from like Guyana, or you'll have people from Puerto Rico, or real backwater podunk towns in, the Bible Belt of the US. And so you have this expectation as a leader to immediately make them work. And you get a little taste of that in boot camp, right? You have all these people that come in, they all have all these mixed backgrounds, but you make them align to one, the culture of the Navy. My division in particular, we created cliques, which is generally in the middle phase of your boot camp or any leader creating a division, a successful division. There's cliques that form in the very infantile stage of having this camaraderie develop. My division never got out of that stage. So we never grew out of the cliques and we never came together as one. We just stayed kind of cliquey. And it was kind of like high school all over again, actually. I actually got picked on a lot in boot camp. Yeah, I wanted to be a hard charger and I wanted to hold one of the flags. And I actually became guide on. Yeah. And a lot of the dudes in the division, they donned a nickname. I was Marching Champ. Yeah.
There you go, Marching Champ.
It was not a good nickname though. I was called Marching Champ because when I requested to be a flag, I told our RDC, I was in, what's it called? ROTC, JROTC. And I said, I tried telling him I would be a good flag holder because I was in this tournament for marching. He's like, I don't care. Marching Champ. Ever since that day, I had the nickname Marching Champ follow me through boot camp and A school, C school.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. It was terrible. I got picked on a lot. Yeah. Yeah, every time I would try to ask someone to do something, it would be something simple, hey, do you mind helping me clean the head or the bathroom? For the listeners, we have different words for different things in the Navy. So I would ask him oh, can you come help me clean the head? I'm cleaning it by myself. And he was like, shut up, Marching Champ. I was like, you know what? Screw you, dude. Oh, no. Oh, man. And the nighttime was crazy in boot camp for us. We actually got another nickname. We were called Club 159.
Okay.
So it was 2 a.m. or something like that. And everyone's just staying up. Everyone in boot camp, the only time you have to talk and have fun or do a little extracurricular studying or shining your boots to make sure they look nice was at night. It's normal for divisions to be rowdy. And sometimes the OOD will come by doing their rounds, tell them, shut up, go to sleep. Not us. It was super loud. We were screaming. You could hear us down the whole entire hallway with the door closed. And so they had to call our RDCs, wake them up from their houses where they lived to come up. The OOD and our RDCs came into the buildings in the middle of the night. We all scrambled and scurried for our racks. But my BM1 RDC, Ari, Petty Officer First Class Ari, he had the thickest accent. I don't remember what country he came from, but he was African for sure. And he was like, so you guys want to just be loud and have fun? I will call you guys Club 159. Stand by for tomorrow morning.
Nice.
And we got beat. We got beat in the morning for being super loud and rowdy.
That's crazy that you guys can even... it blows my mind because, like, yeah, we're not allowed to do any of that stuff at all. So,
I mean, we weren't allowed to do it either, but we did it anyways.
no, like there wasn't a chance to do it.
Oh,
So
wow.
we would get really beat,
Really?
or really hammered, or we didn't even have the energy to do that kind of stuff.
Right. Okay. Oh, we had in the nighttime, that division came alive. We had like this little fight club going on in the restroom. It was so funny. A lot of testosterone and a lot of things that guys couldn't figure out when there was disagreements among the division. So along with us being super rowdy at night, we would have like these little things in the restroom where if you had beef with somebody, you'd squash it there.
Yeah.
And a lot of the guys that came into my division, they had prior Navy family members. And the old Navy was very, very different from all the other branches because there's not that many eyes on you when you're on the ship.
Right. That makes sense.
So that's why, historically you have like really rowdy sailors. They're into drinking. They're into fighting. You could see that, and it's very apparent in my division because people would come by and they would wake somebody up and be like, hey, I have a problem with you.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's figure it out. And then they'd go to the restroom and, we'd close the door and they wouldn't say anything. They'd handle whatever I actually ended up having a disagreement with somebody. He's out the Navy now, but yeah, I actually was in that little squabble restroom.
There you go.
And when we were at the tow line the next morning, my chief petty officer goes up to me and he's looking at my face. He's like, Francisco, what the fuck's wrong with your lip? I nicked it, shaving, chief petty officer. Okay. And it goes to the other guy across the room. What's wrong with your eyebrow? I was combing my hair, chief petty officer, and I don't know, the corner of the comb cut it. Okay.
There you go.
If any of you guys are fighting at night, don't let me find out. They never did.
Yeah, that's cool. I never knew that about the Navy. I mean, a lot of things that I hear about the Navy boot camp was a lot of learning how to fold sheets.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you reminded me. Yeah, the corners, the 45-degree corners, they drove everyone insane. Oh, man, my fingers are messed up because they were like screws into the rack. So when you're trying to like shove the bed sheet into the rack, your fingers get cut up by the screws.
From the little angle iron.
Yeah. And it was terrible. Yeah, the 45-degree angle. Yeah, that's like in the deep recesses of my mind. I didn't want to bring back. Oh, and then the Ricky recruit press, the folding. Yeah. We would have to like iron our clothes. And how we would iron it is we'd put it on this tall metal, not tall, but this large, wide metal portion of the rack. And we'd fold our clothes. We used to put it there, and then we would put our rack down because it was a coffin rack. All the styles are coffin racks. And we would put it down and press the crap out of the clothes. And then we'd sleep on top.
Right.
And so the Ricky recruit press. Yeah.
That's funny.
Oh, good memories.
Sounds like your boot camp was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was. People got hit by the socks and soaps in the middle of the night. Yeah, it was super rowdy. Yeah. It was super rowdy. A lot rowdier. Almost, yeah. I think it was a mixture of guys having older Navy family members and talking about the Navy glory days. It kind of got into everyone's head.
Were you the only one that was a male group?
No. So our whole building was males.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole building was all male divisions.
So you guys were just club.
Yeah, Club 159 was probably the rowdiest one. Yeah, we were the rowdiest one. We got beat a lot. We got orange juice a lot. And orange juice is, for the listeners, they would have cards, the exercises. So they had certain exercises and they would make us do it for like an hour or half an hour. If you got orange juice, though, they ran through the whole card for hours.
Nice.
And we actually, my RDCs, they did a lot of things that they weren't supposed to do. But God bless them, though, because hazing, there's good hazing and there's bad hazing. I feel as though they did the good hazing, especially for men. You need more, iron sharpens iron, and I'm a firm believer of that. And he was hard on us, and he brought back some of the older traditions that they're not allowed to do anymore. for us because we were so rowdy and a lot of testosterone was flowing through us. And we had another chief petty officer. We have brother divisions or sister divisions. We called it brother because, all men. Our brother div, the chief petty officer that was running that one, the first RDC for our brother div, his nickname was the Bulldog. And he literally looked like a bulldog.
Nice.
It was insane. He was one of those dudes that was just real husky and almost looked like he was overweight, but he could run. He could run and he could PT, and he was not shy of running through the orange juice with us. It was insane. It was absolutely insane. Seeing these guys PT in their boots. And yeah, so one of the things that they did too was they'd call it make it rain. So what they would do is they'd turn on the showers and super hot water. And then we would have to make the ceiling of our compartment perspire. So water droplets fell down from the ceiling, and that's why they called it make it rain. So when we were getting beat one day, our brother Div's RDC is like, I want some of this. You guys are going to do something that I haven't done in a while. You got to make it rain. And so the showers turn on. I actually got saved from that day because I went to go talk to the chaplain because I was having a hard time. There was a lot of stuff going through my personal life and religious life when I first joined. So I got saved from that particular day. My RDC came up to me and was like, you're lucky. You're going to go talk to chaps. And then when I came back from talking to the chaplain, people just hated me so much more.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah. I feel as though that day it was a genuine need to talk to the chaplain.
Let's shift gears a little bit, right? So boot camp was interesting for you. It sounds like you had a pretty good time. I'm sure there was horrible times.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, just like everyone. So you're out of boot camp now, right? You hit the fleet. You mentioned a little bit about A school, but after A school, you hit the fleet. What were your thoughts going into the fleet? Did it meet your expectations? Did it blow your expectations? What was it?
A little bit of both. It was underwhelming and dumb. That was my first reaction. Coming from this super rowdy division and then going into A school, C school, where it was like we're actually learning how to be sailors and we're actually doing our jobs now. It was very underwhelming when I first touched boots on deck onto NC Tam's pack. That was my first duty station, and it's in Wahiawa, Hawaii. So NC Tams, you have a satellite communication station by the Army, and then you had an NSA building over there. And that's actually where Edward Snowden stole all that information. Yeah, that base.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was my first duty station was the most liveliest first duty station. And that's where all the things that, I'll talk about a little bit later onto the show happened for me. All the rowdiness got dialed back a lot. And everything was just so soft and politically correct, And even though I'm a younger dude that went in during that softer time, I was very blessed to have a lot of leadership who were 15, 20 years in, and they didn't sugarcoat it with me, and they shared a little bit of that older Navy with me because I asked for it.
Yeah.
I wanted the experience. I didn't want to just go around and being coddled. I didn't want to be coddled. I wanted the full experience. So, yeah.
So you were stationed at Hawaii. Did you ever do sea duty? I hear that a lot from Navy dudes.
Yeah. I did a sea tour. My second duty station was USS Russell, DDG-59. It was out here in San Diego. Yeah. My first duty, I actually got shore. That's the thing.
Oh.
My first duty station was a shore station because the Navy was hurting for ITs everywhere.
I see.
So me and 3 other guys got stationed in Hawaii, and almost 60% of my class leaving A school got shore stations, first orders.
Wow.
And that's kind of hard to believe. Yeah. But we were just hurting that much. They were taking all of the experienced ITs in the fleet and shoving them in ships. And then they were taking the new guys, putting them at shore. And then so at least there they could slowly integrate.
It's a slower tempo.
Yeah. And so the hope of the Navy at that time was let's train these guys so they can be ready for the fleet. There were a lot of accidents happening in the fleet at the time where ships were running into other ships. My ship in particular, we ran into the Chafee, I think. Something went wrong when they were in port and down in what we call CCS, like the engineering compartment where they have control over steering and power. It's the second place where you could drive the boat instead of just the bridge.
Okay.
Yeah, my DDG ended up running into another ship, and they attested that to like incompetence, lack of training, stuff like that. Yeah, it was happening all across the fleet. And the Navy was turbulent at this time. We were going through uniform changes. They took away our rates. So instead of me just being IT1, they gave us NOSs. You know, the same how you guys have MOSs.
Okay.
They tried integrating that to the Navy. Everyone in the Navy hated it because how we walk around on the ship or on the deck and we address one another, it's rate and rank. So if you were a machinist mate, second class petty officer, it was MM2. I was E6 when I got out, so mine was IT1. Then so on and so forth. If you were DC3 or SO, SN, SEAL operator, seaman.
The two letters kind of designates your MOS
Yes,
or
so
your job.
Yeah.
And then the number is your rank.
Pretty much.
Okay.
When you're E1 through E3, it's seaman recruit, seaman apprentice, and then seaman. So it would be your rate, SR, rate, SA, rate, SN.
What if you didn't know someone's rate?
So if you came in undez and you were a striker, you would just be called seaman recruit, seaman apprentice, or seaman. You never got past E4 until you rated.
Well, I mean, like, so me being a Marine, and I walked up to you, because I don't know your MOS, I don't know who you are, I just see your rank. What do I call you then?
A lot of times we were okay with being called petty officer. Yeah. Petty officer is good. That was a catch-all. For Navy guys, when we went through the NOS period of my career, it was always PO1, PO2, because you could identify someone of a higher rank based off of their collar devices. And our collar devices was a crow and then chevrons under it. And if you were a seaman, it would just be like bars, slanted bars. Yeah.
I see. You guys got too much stuff.
Yeah. It seems simple to me now, growing up and going through the Navy, but MOSs to me were so confusing. I was like, how do you guys memorize all these numbers?
Yeah, but we never ever say it.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Yeah, I was a Charlie mechanic. Yeah, a Humvee mechanic. That's how my dad always described things to me. He never used MOS. Yeah.
Interesting. So now you're in the fleet, right? You came from boot camp, rowdiness. You're in the fleet, kind of dialed down a little bit. Is there any moment that you remember right now that you want to bring up that really shaped you as a person?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot. A lot of them did come from NC TAMs. And I'll never forget my first class of my shop. And he was a half white, half Korean guy and from Texas. And he was bald. But this dude was one of the funniest guys. His emphasis was, we're going to go party. We're going to go have fun. But every single day, you're going to come in here and do your job. And, I was actually, how do I say? I didn't really care much for the working, how do I say? I'm having a hard time right now. All the proper stuff, I didn't even care for. I told people all the time, don't call me IT2, don't call me IT3, don't call me IT1. That's my slave name. Just call me Francisco, because I wanted quality of work and connection. That was my main thing. And he was a very good leadership model for me, because that's pretty much how he did it. He expected us to call him IT1, but it's because we wanted to, For a lot of people in the Navy, I feel as though there's not really a lot of respect for rank. I'm not going to sit here and justify and say it's good, but there was definitely colors that you had to earn. If you were good at your job and we respected you as a leader, then a lot of the younger guys would in fact call you by your rank. If not, it was just your last name. you don't know what you're doing. Yeah. Because you can test out. So how our ranking process works is we have an eval and then we take a test. We do a leadership course, but it's very, very short. It's not as in-depth like the other branches, because a lot of the leadership that you learn is on the deck plates.
Yeah.
So my leadership course for both going into E5 and first class was like 2 weeks long. That's it. I know for Army, it's like they go through 2-3 month long course just to learn how to be a sergeant, a proper sergeant. Us, it's like trial by fire. Yeah.
Checking a box.
Yeah. Check in the box, do the administrative stuff. Now we're going to learn. And there's this terrible culture in the Navy where all of the work that the next higher rank up puts on their junior sailors. So they do learn. And that culture has been ongoing in the Navy throughout my career. And I'm sure it's still going on to this day. Instruction wise, at least, when people are doing their evaluations, it's common for the leaders to make the junior sailors write their own evals. That's not how an eval should work.
Right, yeah.
The senior sailor should be evaluating the junior sailor. But that does involve sometimes having to be in charge of 20 plus sailors, and then you're expected to write all 20 evals. That's hard to do. So, along with their maintenance lives and jobs and the IT aspect of our lives, we made the administrative stuff fall on to the next person down. And I don't agree with that. So to tie that into the respect aspect of the Navy's culture, you can completely just study the bibs, study the books, and know the answers on paper just to ace the exam. And you might not actually know your job. There's been plenty of times where I'm working with a more senior, even E7 and E6s, and they just don't know what they're doing. But they got to where they are because they hit those check marks.
Right.
You know.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, IT1 Butler shaped my leadership and how I carried myself in the Navy. I was always like the uncle of my ship.
Okay.
I took care of everybody because that connection was important to me. And I made it a point, like, do your job, do it well, and I'll take care of you. I would bring in coffee. I would bring in donuts. I was that guy. Yeah. Every time we went on underway, not necessarily a deployment, but I'd always bring snacks and morale boosting things. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good. How many years were you in the Navy?
I was in for a little under 8 years.
Okay. And you did how many shore duties and sea duties?
I only did 2 duty stations, but I was given to a lot of bases. I was lent out under, additional duty.
Yeah.
I was a part of security forces in Pearl Harbor for a while. And then when I was here on the boat in San Diego, I was lent out to a lot of other boats to give training on some systems for a few days. When I was in Hawaii and we had my main job, at least was a watch floor, we were inside of a skiff and you couldn't bring your phone in there. The services we provided extended out to the entire fleet. So it was kind of a pretty important place to be in regards to being an IT. There was a lot of stuff that could have sent you to NJP.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah, yours are like top secret. Probably.
Yeah. We deal with a lot of messages called EAMs, emergency action messages. And those are the messages that puts warheads on foreheads.
Wow.
So that was a lot of my job. I was part of Message Center at NC TAMS. And it's ironic too, because Message Center was the black sheep of that whole base. We were always getting into trouble. We were getting into like drug busts, DUIs.
Wow.
Yeah. My division was terrible. Yeah, we were terrible, but a lot of good guys worked in that division. When I got I got lent out to security forces, I was actually there during Pearl Harbor's active shooter. I was actually on duty.
Wow.
I was one of the sentrymen watching the gates during that time.
Wow.
It was at the dry docks. Yeah. That was intense. It happened. Can I talk about that? Okay, yeah. So it was on the USS Columbia. I don't know for a lot of listeners that they listen to the news, but a lot of times they don't like talking about when it's a sailor committed act. And this one was a sailor, unfortunately. It was a petty officer of the watch. And I don't know, he just kind of lost it. And then he started open firing on everybody. And I was there like 2 ports down. Yeah.
Jeez.
That happened early December of 2019.
That's weird. I don't even know about that.
Yeah. It was a crazy time. Hawaii, when I was there, was a crazy time because I was also there for like the ballistic missile scare.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
I had because my mom texted me.
It was insane. Everyone was running to the beach and they were going nuts. I woke up at like 7 in the morning to like an Amber Alert.
Yeah.
And the message that I got on my phone was saying, there's a ballistic missile incoming to Hawaii. Take shelter. I was so tired because I was at security forces and we were doing like long hours. And I just kind of like snoozed my phone and I just went back to sleep. But then everybody on island, my local friends and all of the guys that weren't on duty at all, they were calling me because they knew I was in IT. And they were asking me like, are we going to be okay? Is this real? That's when it sunk in for me like, oh snap, this might be actually happening. So I woke up and I tried calling my watch floor and I let them know like, hey, I got this Amber Alert saying there's a ballistic missile incoming. Is actually anything happening? And my buddy, who actually works for the company I work for now, his name's Kyle Traheen, I love that guy. But I called him and I asked him like, hey, Kyle, is there actually a ballistic missile incoming? And he laughed at me and he's like, dude, stop messing with me. I'm like, no, I'm serious. Like, we got an Amber Alert. And then I hear his voice like kind of choke up because there's other phones in the watch floor ringing like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets real serious. He's like, okay, hold on. I'm going to call you back. Never calls me back. Never called me back. So I had no idea what to do or what to say. And then I heard the air raid sirens going off on all over the island at that point. Towns were like staggering it because they didn't know if it was real or not. And Wahiawa, Whitmore, they all started going off. And people were at the gate. So my barracks at the time was right by the old front gate to NC Tams. And I literally see people from the town trying to get into the chain link fence to get into the base. Yeah.
Dang.
It was insane. It was a very insane time. Yeah. Glad I survived it.
Because I don't know the details of it, right? How long did that until the official notice come out saying that it was an accident, basically?
I waited for hours.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really checking the news. To be really honest, I was waiting for it to happen. I remember I tried calling my mom and my girlfriend at the time to let them know, like, hey, something might be happening. They didn't pick up. I remember I remember texting them and saying, like, I love you guys. If anything happens, just remember me. And in my barracks, instead of like putting on clothes or getting ready to go to the watch floor, I take the little seat that they give us in our barracks room. I put it right in front of the window. I open my window curtains and I just sit there and I wait. Because in my head, I'm like, I mean, if I'm going to die, I want to see this thing happen.
Yeah, sure.
So I waited. 8 o'clock came by. I ate breakfast. I sat back down. 9 o'clock passed by and nothing happened. And then I went outside and I started knocking on doors like, did you guys hear anything at all about what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was just kind of lost. And around 10:30, my buddy, not Kyle, but from the watch floor does end up calling me back and saying like, hey, it's a false alarm. Don't worry about it. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, I only knew about it because my mom called me or she texted me. Someone texted me about my mom along those lines. But me being me, I was just like, it's a false alarm. No one's gonna attack Hawaii.
That's insane. You just knew?
I just assumed. I didn't know, but I just assumed.
Yeah.
For me, I'm just in this day and age to attack Hawaii, like, that's really bad.
Yeah, it is really bad.
Like, and to even get into, because we're so globally connected with everything, right? For somebody to attack Hawaii, to threaten the U.S., it's just out of my mind.
Hawaii is a key point.
Correct. Yeah. So I know it's like very valuable strategic wise, but for me, I was just like, there's no way.
That's good. Yeah, I didn't. I was waiting to die. But it came on later when I ended up going to Walmart, I think, to like get some supplies.
Was there other people around too?
Yeah, they were looting like Walmart.
Oh,
yeah. They were like
So you went to
stealing all
join?
the water bottles. No, I went like life was just normal, but people were panicking, and they were playing the news in Walmart, and they were telling the news was saying like, oh, it was a false alarm, and something about the button that was next to the normal monthly air raid siren testing that they do in Hawaii for the hurricanes. The button was like right next to it for ballistic missile incoming. Yeah, that guy definitely got fired. I remember there was like some local dude, some unks, and he was just insane, like, doing this to nothing.
Yeah.
No, sorry, auntie.
All freaking out for nothing.
Yeah, I know. I felt so bad for the staff because they couldn't do anything and people were just running out stealing stuff.
I mean,
yeah.
When you think a missile's coming, I mean,
what are you gonna do? You know, what is looting Walmart gonna do? Oh man.
So now you spent quite a few years in the Navy, learning a bunch of things, growing in rank, just growing as a person in general, having subordinates underneath you, teaching them the way, all these things that we go through as military members. But there comes a time where we have to decide, stay in or get out. And obviously you chose to get out.
It wasn't by my choice.
Oh, you didn't choose?
Yeah, I didn't want to get out. Actually, I wanted to...
Tell us about it.
I wanted to re-enlist and do one more shore duty. And then by that time, I was going to be in for about 11 to 12 years. And then from there, I more than likely would have stayed in. I wanted to try to go back to Hawaii and do another shore station there, or probably Japan. But when time came for my PCS and choosing orders, I was locked out from the online website that we use to choose orders. And I ended up calling Tennessee Milpers. That's where we get our orders from.
So why were you locked out?
So they wanted me on the ship for another year.
Okay.
And I told them no way. There's not a chance I'm going on another deployment with this crappy DDG.
I see. So they were playing politics with you.
Kinda. There was a new instruction at the time, and I fell right in the middle. Now, according to the instruction, I was supposed to be grandfathered into the old sea-shore rotation. It was supposed to be 3 on, 3 off. But if it's your first ship, it's supposed to be 4 years. And when it was time for my orders, they didn't want me not leaving the ship after 4 years. And so I was arguing with this chief, telling her, like, no, it's my time to go. I'm grandfathered in. She told me, I don't care. I'm going to extend your PRD for another year, my rotation date. And she did it. They printed out hard copies in the PS's office, like the personnel, and I had a new date on a new set of orders for the same exact place I was at. So I told her, I have years of experience. The Navy has already spent millions of dollars on me. Can't you just work with me here to try to get me something I want? Because at least if I go to another duty station or if I re-enlist, you might have me on the hook for all 20. She said, nope, your options are stay in and go on that deployment, or you can get out. Okay, fine, I'm gonna get out. Okay, cool, I don't care.
Wow.
It's insane. I know everyone that's probably listening right now, if they have military family members, a lot of times they'll say the military ordering people at Tennessee, they'll work with you and try to get you to what you and your family need. But it didn't work out that way.
Wow.
Yeah, so I ended up getting out, standing on business of, okay, fine, I'm not going on the deployment. Again, I didn't want to. It was a love-hate relationship with my naval career, but I was comfortable where I was at, so I wanted to keep doing what I was doing. And since I was getting up in my rank and years in service, I started going into more of that from technician side of the house to administrative leader side.
Right.
And I kind of enjoyed doing it, not being in charge of people, but I loved training people. That was my thing. I loved training people, and I loved taking care of my subordinates and letting them know that they weren't alone. Like, one of my favorite additional duties, both in Hawaii and in San Diego when I was on the ship, was being a sponsor. I love telling the new sailors, these are the resources that you can reach out to your ombudsman. This is the cool places to go near the area. These are good places to get some food. And I love connecting with people that way. Like, food was very near and dear to my heart. I don't know if you guys can tell by my weight. But so one of my side hustles in the Navy was cutting hair and catering food. And so I would sell lumpia. Surprise. I would sell a lot of Filipino food to a lot of sailors. I just wanted them to feel like they had some family there. Even though I wasn't blood related to them or they knew me very well, I was very open and willing to introduce them into my family and let them feel welcome. Because it's a very scary thing to go into a new place, a new state, new city, and you don't know anybody. So I loved showing people around. And that was one of my favorite additional duties, was being a sponsor.
So through that time when you were sponsoring a bunch of youngins, is there one that you still connect with today?
Yeah, I connect with a lot of them, to be honest. They're all doing extremely well for their career. And I'm very grateful to see the product of the hard work that I poured into them. When I was in and we were training all of our guys on our DDG, we ended up being like the best DDG experience wise in like the waterfront in San Diego. Like, we were acing every examination. We were getting top marks on our exercises. Like, so we have this, what is it called again? CSET.
Yeah.
So CSTT, it's like our technical training for combat systems. And out of all the people on the waterfront, my guys were the most experienced.
Nice.
And when I left, I made it a point to keep in touch with them. We just came back from one of their housewarmings. They finally got their house. And I helped these guys build their lives on the outside, referring them to financial tools, what they could do into getting their first homes. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, still keep in touch on the Facebook Messenger.
That's great. Yeah, definitely the military can do that.
Yeah.
There's individuals in there that's their calling, right? They just love doing it and helping out because they know where they came from or how little information they had. So they want
lifelong friends.
So since you got out, not completely on your own terms, but on your terms, let's talk about that transition. I know for myself, it was pretty difficult. I want to know your experience with that transition period. What was going on in your mind, military-wise, and then also learning the fact that you had to pick up a civilian life as well.
Right. It was super scary. I didn't have a plan. So towards the end of my career, like October of 2024, so just a little over a year ago, I didn't have a job lined up. I tried my best to go on LinkedIn, clearance job, using all the resources to get certified in my IT career that I'm in now. But really, I just kind of leapt in faith. I didn't worry about it. I prayed to Papa God and I said, Lord Father God, I want to make you the master of all. And I'm not going to apply for another job. I'm just going to let you do this. Because I've already applied for hundreds of jobs and it's coming up to September, 1 month right before I get out. And I still didn't have anything lined up. My wife and I had debt. We had a kid on the way. It was extremely scary.
Yeah.
But when I surrendered all of that and had a lot of peace, a few days later, somebody calls me and says, hey, we heard about you from the ship and we have a resume. And it didn't even match the resume that I posted on LinkedIn and stuff. I'm like, I don't know where you guys got this from.
Wow.
But yeah, God definitely moved and got me that job.
Yeah.
My interview was like 2 hours long,
Mm-hmm.
but all of the information that I learned when on the ship, when I was being used and abused and wearing multiple hats, came into play right then and there. And I just started vomiting all the experience and knowledge in that interview. And we love you. Let's do it. Let's hire
That's
you.
awesome.
Yeah.
That transition period is pretty tough.
Especially the VA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were there any personal beliefs or values that were ever challenged or strengthened during that time?
Yeah, for sure. Not so much during the transition for my values, because I wanted to be more Christ-like. I wanted to walk the narrow path. A lot of interactions from when I got out onwards, when my wife and I and my family started becoming more Christ-centered family, there was a lot of world experiences and influences that I noticed were very much around and trying to seep into the little cracks in my very infantile faith. So that housewarming party that I went to for one of my guys, I could notice it right then and there. And I was like a new person to them,
Mm-hmm.
but I wanted to show them, like, you guys don't have to smoke cigarettes anymore. You guys don't have to get wasted. It was kind of, I was like a buzzkill more or less for that party because I brought my kid.
Mm.
And my wife has met them before. And back then, we loved partying with them.
Yeah.
We had such a great time just cutting loose and just drinking, talking story. But that particular party, I was like, faith-wise, at least, my spirit felt sad. I felt very sad knowing that they were still kind of lost. And one of my junior sailors, one of my sea babies, he won't call me sea dad, but I know for a fact he is my sea baby. That's what we call like the mentor relationship in the Navy.
Okay.
Sea babies and sea daddies. But my particular sea baby, the one that I recognize, Goronsky, he once knew Christ, and he likes to walk around saying that God has a problem with him, and that's not the case. He has a chip on his shoulder for whatever happened in his personal life for God. So, Navy side, there were friends and family that were just straying away. And ever since I got out, a lot of them started calling me and wanted to hang out with me, which I don't know, it was kind of strange. I have a lot of friends from Hawaii that came to San Diego and got stationed here, and they bought houses too. And for the duration of the 3+ years that I was here, I didn't really hang out with a lot of them. Now, all of a sudden that I'm out, they see like, oh, you have more time on your hands. Let's go hang out and party and go drinking. I'm not really going to go drinking anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was almost like I felt as though God was, or maybe the enemy too. I still don't know to this day. The temptation to do these things, I just kind of said no to all of them. And when I got out, the people that I used to party with like that would reach out to me, and I would tell them like, no, I'm okay now. I don't need to do that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I felt like so free saying no to that stuff, It was very bittersweet almost, because I want to hang out with these people and I want to hang out with these friends who are completely lost. But I want to bring them into the church and bring them into my oikos, and I want to pray for them feverishly.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just still very lost, and it saddens me.
You were speaking about faith. Did you find that before the military or during the military? Or when did you find that?
My faith was kind of a lukewarm for throughout my career. I was very transactional when it came to talking with God. Like, a lot of it was, God, if you do this for me, I'll never do this again.
Yeah.
Or, Papa God, if you help me out this one time, then I'll make this change and become perfect for you. Very proper lukewarm Christian. I actually wrestled with the idea of God or higher power before I got into the Navy. And that's kind of like why I wanted to go see the chaplain during my boot camp time. I would go to church in boot camp on Sundays because it was like probably the only time that you got to go have proper rest instead of just polishing your boots or ironing your clothes. But before I joined, the thing that caused me all that mental stress was, my parents were separating at the time. My dad wasn't being as faithful of a man as he should have. And my girlfriend at the time, the woman I thought I was going to marry, broke things off right before I left. And so I remember the church I went to. I actually went to St. Borromeo Catholic Church in Sacramento. And I was a Catholic at the time. And I remember during the portion of the Mass where you receive the blood and body of the Christ and you kneel on the pews, that's your chance to talk to God for Catholics. All the other time that you need an interaction with God as a Catholic, the Catholic Church expects you to go to the priest for him to interpret the Bible reading that applies to you. It's not really like you know God yourself personally. You need to go to someone who has a stronger connection, and then they can bestow this knowledge upon you. And that's why the Pope is such an important figure in the Catholic faith. They need these people who have this direct line. You don't really talk to God yourself personally. This day in particular, I tried talking to him myself. I received the blood and body of Christ, and I was so angry. I knelt down, and I remember I was not speaking properly how Catholics expect you to pray. I was angry, and I was screaming, and I was cursing at him. And, God, why the hell did you yada, yada, yada? And in his house, and I was screaming to the top of my lungs in the quiet of my mind. And I was bawling my eyes out while I was kneeling at the pews, and people thought something was wrong with me. They put their hands over me and they started praying for me, and I'm just there covering my face and just talking to God. And this was the craziest feeling, me personally, at the peak of my depression, sadness, anger, anxiety. I stopped crying, like out of nowhere. All those negative emotions that were welling up inside of me just disappeared in an instant. And I physically felt a warmth starting between my shoulder blades, an inexplicable warmth, and then running across my shoulders, over my arms, and then enveloping my hands. And when that happened, I didn't know it was God at the time, but I knew it was strange that I went from sobbing my eyes out to just stopping. And that church was always cold growing up. They always had the AC cranked up, and I would be freezing. And I remember that day I was wearing like a tank top and basketball shorts. Like I was not in a good place in my life going to church dressed up like that. But that warmth that I felt was so comforting, and it was such a loving warmth. I don't really know how else to describe, but if you ever lived in a cold state or a cold place in the world and you're awake, you have no priorities for that day, and you're just cuddled up in your blanket and you don't want to get out of it. It's almost like that kind of warmth, that comforting, safe warmth. It was a very intense feeling, and I battled with myself saying, okay, what was that? Was that actually God? And a week later, I came to terms like, okay, that is Father God. And then I went off to boot camp. I went to church often. I started like trickling off. I wouldn't read my Bible. I wouldn't talk to the priests and the chaplains. I actually did not have a good experience talking to that chaplain in boot camp. So yeah, it was very invalidating, pretty much, is how I felt with that chaplain. But, they train us to be machines, I tell a lot of people when you join the military and you have a faith, you need to make sure your faith takes priority. A lot of times, my chief or my divisional officer or my combat systems officer would tell our guys, like, you can't go to church on Sunday. And I would be the one leadership for them saying, you can't tell them that. This is the instruction. That's what it says. They need to go to church. Their spirit and their soul is more important than this 20-year career.
Yeah.
And so I kind of felt like that was God's way of still having me protected in the services. I still felt connected to him through my own morals, unbeknownst to me that they were Christian morals at the time. But yeah, I was very lukewarm. I stopped going to church for a while I was in. Then when I got out, that's when I went full throttle, started volunteering into kids ministry where my wife works and going to, more volunteering opportunities. I started tithing, so a complete 180 after I got out.
Yeah, it's like it almost seems like once you were out of that community, not saying that all Navy community is bad, but the community that you were in, the light started to shine a little bit more.
Yeah. I feel as though I kind of ignored it for a long time. I wanted to, because, like I was saying earlier, that stuff blurred my vision, what my path should have been. And it's very plain to see now.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a distraction. The enemy wanted to distract me by giving me these body pleasures and wanted me to succumb to a lot of the desires that I wanted. And the Navy kind of fed into that too.
So are you Catholic?
No. I actually got baptized this year.
Oh, this year? Wow,
yeah.
congrats.
Thank you.
When did you realize that Catholic is not for you?
I've been going to Skyline Church for a while, our church, shout out Skyline. But I knew in my heart at the time, like, okay, I'm going to be faithful to being Catholic. That is my faith. That's how I found God in a Catholic church. And that's how I'm going to be. And my wife, she wasn't necessarily Wesleyan, but she recognized herself as a Christ follower. So when I first met my wife, Tiana, in Hawaii, we started going to a lot of these Christian churches. New Hope, Wahiwa. It was a little tiny school in Wahiwa. And I wouldn't go to Catholic Mass. So I went to a Christian church, but I would be so hard-headed and say, I'm still a Catholic for years.
Wow.
I'd go to Christian churches, and I'd go with my wife, girlfriend at the time, and then we would sometimes argue, I can't be in this union, in this marriage with you if you don't, try to see that Catholicism doesn't stand for the things that they used to stand for. And when Pastor Jeremy went on about Catholicism being a cult, it kind of prompted me to do my own research. And it's strange that there's a lot of scripture in the New Testament that talks about knowing Jesus, talking to him, and developing a relationship with him, but the Catholic Church doesn't say that. They tell you, go to church, confess to a priest, and talk to your father.
I don't know anything about Catholics or Catholic religion or anything in that scope besides the sermon that our Pastor Jeremy, talked about. Do they read the same Bible?
They do, for the most part, Old Testament, New Testament, but there are other books at the end of it that they don't include in our like NLT, ESV Bible. It's called the Apocrypha. And those parts of the Catholic Bible, the Apocrypha, talks about, glorifying Mother Mary, celebration of the saints, praying to them. That's where, in the Apocrypha in particular, that's where you get a heavy amount of what you see Catholics doing to this day and age, like the Hail Marys, the churches that are based off the saints. So it's because of that Apocrypha.
Since they're so heavy on the
Apocrypha.
Apocrypha. What about the actual Bible?
They do still hold true to Old Testament and New Testament, more so Old Testament. They are very ritualistic when it comes to Catholicism. You have to go to communion. You have to be confirmed in the church. If you get baptized in another church that's not Catholic, you are banned from the church and you're never able to come back. That's one of the stipulations. That's why I was so scared of converting. Because according to Catholicism, when you get baptized in another faith, you are banned and you're pretty much a guaranteed ticket to downstairs. So that terrified me. That terrified me for a long, long time. And I battled with that idea. If this is the wrong decision, I'm going to hell. There's nothing I can do about it.
What happened to make you decide to go against what you grew up believing?
It was really the opening the Bible myself. It was opening the Bible, and it was a heavy part of it was my wife. So in the Bible, it tells us that we have roles in our union, right? And the man should be the priest of the household, telling the family when to go to church, how we're going to move, and what things we should devote our lives to, and serving the community, going to church, being part of the body and community of Christ. My wife would challenge me all the time.
That's the local girl spirit.
All the time about scripture. And, there's a heavy presence of Christ followers in Hawaii. And I'm so grateful for that. So my entire in-law family are Christians. And when I would have these debates with them, I was always losing because I did not know scripture.
Right.
I knew the books like Maccabees and the Apocrypha, and I would pretty much tell her like, oh, we pray to Mother Mary because it's kind of like asking for a loved one to pray for you. But then when, you open the New Testament and you see how Jesus spoke to the disciples and everyone that he was processing to, he wants to know you personally. He wants you to have your own relationship with him.
Right.
And it's not a discreet one that you have behind closed doors with a priest on the other side of the panel. It's public. It's open. You're supposed to be proud of your faith, and more exposure to the truth ultimately drove me to making that change for my life.
Yeah, shout out to both of our wives because my wife actually led me to Christ as well.
Yeah.
Similar to you.
Yeah.
But just different ways. But shout out to them.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up in the faith, right? I was just living amongst the world, doing my own thing.
Right.
But I started going to church with my wife, so same like you.
Yeah.
And when I first heard that it's a relationship, it changed everything for me. I was like, yeah, and you mentioned it a bunch of times. So I'm glad you do. Because, yeah, it's definitely a relationship with the Lord, you and him personally.
Absolutely.
And that moved everything for me. But yeah, I'm glad I did the same thing for you.
Right on. When did you make the decision?
So I got baptized in 2019, Father's Day.
Right on. What a good day.
I was dating my wife for quite a long time, and I'm just going to church, learning, and just listening. I wasn't as stubborn as you are about it, but I was just listening.
It's fair, yeah.
And when we finally came down to San Diego, we went to Skyline Church. We got recommended from a friend up there, and then a friend at my wife's work. I don't remember what sermon it was exactly, but I remember Pastor Jeremy saying, "You can pray it in your heart. God's listening. He can hear you in the smallness of your voice, right, or in your mind. He's always listening." And for some reason, when he said that, everything just clicked. It's a me and him relationship. He's always listening to me, with me, going through everything with me. And after I heard that message, that's when I prayed in my heart, that I let Christ in. And then about a year after, I decided to get baptized in 2019.
I pray that prayer every single time. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. I keep doing the wrong that I do.
Yeah, I feel you on that. That's our inherent nature. Right? That lets us know that we can't do it alone.
Right.
That every day we need Christ.
Amen.
Every day, every minute, we can succumb to our flesh. And it just we may not ever overcome it,
Right.
but it makes us realize that we need somebody. We need him to save us.
Yeah.
The way I look at it is like, imagine one day we're like, oh, I got it all figured out. Well, I guess you don't need Christ no more. And that's not the answer.
Yeah, it's not.
And you will never figure it out, but you will always need Christ.
Yeah, absolutely. Wherever you go, whatever you do, it has to have Christ a little bit in there.
Well, I appreciate your story and your experiences and things like that. That was really touching. I appreciate you sharing.
Absolutely. I'm glad to share it.
So now you've been out for how many years now?
Oh, a little over a year.
A little over a year.
Yeah.
What are some things you noticed or challenges, if there were any, working with military members and now working with non-military members since you're a civilian now?
It's 100% the faith conversation again.
Yeah?
Yeah. I noticed myself doing this. So in my job, what I do now is I pretty much go onto the boats and I train the sailors while I install their new network. So I do a mixture of like higher tier help desk support. So when the sailors can't figure it out, I'm the guy that the Navy will
Your IT
fly
IT.
out. Right. Yeah, it's the we don't know what we're doing, help us please. And they'll fly guys like me out wherever they are, sometimes even to the Middle East and like, riskier life threatening areas. And we'll go on board and we fix their networks and we help them certify. So it's a little bit of everything. The Navy does a great job of overwhelming small groups of people with a lot of responsibilities, but I pretty much just went from being an IT to being an upgraded version of that IT, the civilian sector. And every time I would go onto the boats, the conversation of faith always came up.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that because you started it? Or?
No. Sometimes it would be, but I'd say more often than not, it wouldn't be me bringing it up.
Wow.
Being in California and being a very left state with a lot of people kind of being lost and they identify more with a political party instead of their faith,
right.
There's always comments to be made working in a military/government environment, whether it's about politics, and then politics always leads up to religion. So that's always how it played out. And for the most part, when I would go on board with the sailors and I'd give them a lot of technical knowledge and there'd be a lot of sidebar about the election or our geopolitical situations with some of our adversaries, faith then came up. And I would always be the only guy in the room on top of the hill professing faith as loud as I can.
Wow.
And I didn't care about who was with me. And I told them, you guys can write me up, but this is more important to me and my spirit and my soul than this job will ever be. So if I hear someone besmirching the name of Jesus, let me tell you about it.
Yeah.
There were a lot of LGBTQ members now. And so I try to tell them, like, people who walk the proper narrow path will not hate you. They should not be fire and brimstone. That's not what we're called to do. We're called to give direction and love and patience to all those, especially the ones we didn't know. And I always bring up to people, when Jesus was walking this earth, he didn't go around and hang out with the Pharisees and those strong in, quote unquote, strong in the faith. He went to the thieves, the prostitutes, those who weren't clean. And a lot of people in the military, surprisingly, for where I've been serving, they don't have a good light on the faith. So every time I went on board, the conversation would come up. I would defend that name, the mighty name, every single time.
That's awesome, man. I look at that as like you're planting the seed a little bit, almost like evangelizing.
I did. Yeah, I did. I actually invited a lot of people to Skyline. They go to Skyline religiously now.
Wow.
Yeah. 2 of my coworkers from the outside work, outside the military, like what I do now. And then 3 buddies from the Navy. They now go to church.
And how often do you go on boats nowadays?
Now, not as much. I'm doing a lot of remote work. It's hybrid. We pretty much sign up for a lot of the work, but through the transitioning that my family and I are going through, I'm not really volunteering for a lot of them stuff. I want to stay home and work on the house and get ready for this next chapter of our lives.
Now that you've been out for a year, I mean, you still have a little bit ties in with the military due to your job. Is there anything you miss about the military life?
Oh yeah, there's a lot that I miss now that I've been out for a while. I miss the people.
Yeah.
I miss connecting with the people. I kind of miss people relying on me as their IT1. It's so strange, like saying it out loud, but I really do love helping people.
Mm.
I love teaching people and showing them the right direction of something. I know I don't always know the answers, but seeing that aha moment in a sailor's eyes or in a younger person's eyes and coming into the realization that, you know what, this is how I need to be doing things, and I bestowed that knowledge upon them, or I shared that piece of information on how to get there, that's the best thing for me in the entire world. And I wouldn't trade me going into the service for anything else. I don't regret it. Like I said in the beginning, it was bittersweet. The military movements and how we operate functionally as a defense fighting service, there's some gripes, but I will never forget working with the people.
Yeah, and the position that you're in right now, that God gave you the job,
Yeah.
that when you finally surrendered, yeah, and that's what you're doing now, right? That's a crazy link to see, honestly, from my side.
Oh, yeah, for sure. When I bring up the faith now to my old friends or even the people on the boat after they're trying to put it in a bad light, and I give them a better perspective. Like one of the best conversations I ever have is a conversation about hell. And the number one thing sailors and or civilians always bring up is, if God loves me so much, why would he send me to hell?
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them, hell is not really a punishment if you think about it. God is love, God is light, and God holds that patience for you even when you don't care for him, right? If he's all those things and hell is not of those things, how amazing is it to think about the Creator making a place for you where you don't want to be with him? Because if you think about a child to a father relationship, I will never force my daughter to do something that she doesn't want to do. That's not a fatherly love. In the same way, God is not going to force you to be with him in heaven because you're not going to be happy there.
Right.
You didn't willingly want to sing the hymns. You didn't willingly want to have a relationship with you. That's why on Judgment Day, they say God will cast you out and say, I never knew you, because Jesus isn't there to hold the tab for you. So how loving of God is it that he could have just made you guys fizzle into the ether and just made you guys not exist anymore. But instead, you know what? Let me make a place for them to be, since they don't want to be with me. Since they want to be away from me, I want them to still have somewhere to be, and that's hell. He made somewhere for everyone who are non-believers so they can exist in the afterlife, just not in relationship to God. Now, inherently, there's no love in hell. All the evil things that we do of this earth are going to happen down there. But that's our choice. We made that decision.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand the fact that hell is in place, but it's the absence of.
Correct.
And God is love, God is kind, God is
Yeah.
patient. All the things that we think are positive,
Mhm.
common grace, right? Protecting us. All that protection is gone because that's what you don't want. You don't want to be with God. So God's like, okay, I'm going to take all the things that I am away, which is hell.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. I'm glad you approach it in that manner.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And how do they respond when they hear that?
A lot of them stay quiet, actually. A lot of the sailors in particular, if they're intense, like I remember Blake brought it up, like how you would know that guy is an agnostic or an atheist, and he would make it known.
They're framing the question because they already have the answer.
Yeah.
And then when they hear something like that, they're like,
if it was those kind of guys that were like atheists hardcore and they wanted to prove me wrong, they'll answer.
Yeah.
But a lot of the people who are on the fence and they think about having a relationship with Christ, those are the ones that stay really quiet. Because then they start thinking to themselves, like, oh, you know what? If I am going to go there, it is kind of my choice, huh? God doesn't really send me there for no reason. But then I trail off into having the argument with the atheist and agnostic people who don't want to acknowledge the truth.
So now you've been out, you've kind of turned your life around in a way, and you're kind of more of a senior level, more experienced human being, man, father. Is there any kind of advice or things that you would like to say to any of active duty service members, peers of yours, or anyone listening on this show? Male, female, wives, husbands, dogs, cats. What would you like to say to them?
Listen and stick to the experienced people. Don't be the smartest person in the room. If you're the smartest person in the room, everyone's going to ask you for the answers that you know you don't have. Go out and seek relationship with people and be inherently kind. When you are the person that is looking for the wisdom, you'll be so amazed how it draws a community to you and it draws people that are like-minded or who want to be like-minded. And then you have an amazing opportunity to connect with them at that learning level. Even if it's not from a faith perspective, if you guys go into a trade or a hobby that you want to go full head on into, stick with the people and keep them on your side of the ring that know the game. If you are with them at all times, then you'll never get steered the wrong way.
Thanks for sharing that. Now, let's put on our veteran hats, right? I know you've only been a veteran for about a year.
Yeah.
You know the struggles, how it is as an early veteran. It's very recent to you. And you're still learning to be a veteran.
Yeah, strange.
What are some things that you want to say to them, to us?
Having the freedom's not weird. One of the first things that struck me super scared, I guess is the right word to say, when I got first hired on to my job. Sorry, I'll answer this with a story. When I first got hired on and I was given a task, I was lost. I was lost with the VA process because no one was telling me what to do. I wasn't given a timeline on when to accomplish these things. They just said, here, do it at your pace. What do you mean my pace? Yeah. What time do I need to be here by?
What uniform?
Yeah, what am I wearing? And that's the same thing I asked my boss. I told him, what time do I need to be there? Who am I going to be talking to? What am I going to be wearing? And he just said, just wear something business casual, something that you'll be comfortable in, but you don't have a uniform anymore. Try to get there around 8:30. If you get in later, no biggie. Just don't come in after 11 a.m. What? This is so strange. And I had all the time in the world to go get coffee somewhere, to go get a little bit of breakfast. It's strange having freedom. Sure, we had time constraints in the outside world for what we do, but just walking around knowing you're in control of it is a very scary feeling to me. Because my whole life was dictated by my parents, then the Navy, then nothing. Yeah, then me. And I think that's why it's a lot easier for me to surrender my life to the Lord, because I need direction. It's hard for me to function.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are people like that in the military where they need the military to function. I'm kind of the same way. I need a direction. I don't like winging it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it can be scary when
Yeah.
you become a veteran. and no one's telling you what to do. It's like when you're flying on a plane, you see the runway, and normally there's an end to it, but this time there's no end to the runway.
Yeah.
You're in control of the plane now.
Mm-hmm. With no co-pilot.
Yeah, no co-pilot. And it's a very strange feeling, and I remember it. But for me personally, because I was a civilian before the military. I went to college. I went to the oil fields. I worked. I was in this film for about maybe 4 years, and then I transitioned. I went into the military, then I went back out. So it was a little bit of an easier switch for me.
God bless you.
But I can empathize with people like yourself who went straight into high school, who understand like that is the route to take.
Yeah.
Someone's telling you what to do. Now literally no one's telling you what to do. And it can be very scary. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
I was so worried about like small things too. Like when my work was telling me how I want to set up my 401k. What is a 401k? What kind of coverages do you want on your insurance? What do you mean? Just insure me. I don't know.
Yeah,
my teeth, my eyes.
You're just oblivious to all the little details that the military took care of.
I was so scared of messing up just everyday things. Like, no joke, you know?
Can I hire somebody to do this?
Yeah. Like, I need an HR. A personal HR following me around.
It's like you're a kid all over again.
Yeah.
We need to just humble ourselves, and just learn. Thanks for sharing those thoughtful messages to our active duty members and our veterans.
Yeah,
things
absolutely.
that you've learned and you've grew from. So here on the Barracks Life, we have a tradition. We try to connect our members to all the episodes. So here I have a bowl.
Yes.
Bowl of questions.
I was waiting for this.
From previous guests. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to draw from this bowl. But I would like you to tell us a few questions of your own. Something that you want to ask someone who's going to be sitting in that seat right there. So if you would, please ask 2 questions that you'd like to ask.
It's a lot harder asking the questions. Like drawing a blank here. If you guys could do your career over, how would you move differently knowing what you know now if you just transported back into time and you were that seaman recruit, you were in boot camp, but you know all of what you know now, all the experiences? Would you do it differently? How would you do it differently?
All right. And question number 2.
This is more so for my members that did life tours. If you didn't have the military, would your personal life and faith be where it's at today? Because for me, at least, because of my service, it pushed me to find more faith inherently because of the struggles we go through.
Yeah.
For those service members who are 20 years and who walk this faith path with us, would you know God if you never knew the military? Without those struggles, would you be where you're at?
Thank you for those thoughtful questions. Now let's see what previous guests want to know from you. Could you please draw?
What made you re-enlist? Or, for the first term, what's going to make you re-enlist? Like, why are you thinking about re-enlisting? So, being a 6Y in the Navy, I already signed a re-enlistment right when I got it.
So let's count it as your first term.
Yeah, I think I can still answer this question. Because even though my technical first re-enlistment was an extension, so technically I re-enlisted twice already, technically. But when I did re-enlist for the extension portion of my career, I had to go to the second duty station. If I didn't, so with the Navy, when you don't have enough time in your service for another contract, they pretty much give you out as like a pool kind of, commands can pick your name wherever. So I could have gone to the middle of freaking Minnesota.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be in that jeopardy pool. So I ended up extending my enlistment to go to the DDG here in San Diego. For me, not including my faith, my main motivation for reenlisting was always the money. The reenlistment bonuses. Now more than ever, they're given out left and right, just thousands of dollars.
It's a candy now.
It is, yeah. I know. Where's my $23,000 for enlisting?
I know.
I got yelled at trying to have a piss test, and I didn't get money for it. Besides my base pay. But I thought about reenlisting because I wanted the experience to travel, and I really have attachment to those I work with. So, yeah, just continuing meeting the people, finding out more about them. How can I serve? How can I help this community flourish more?
And for question number 2, could you please draw?
How good did you get because you're in the military and your life could depend on it? How good did you get because you're in the military and your life could depend on it? Did you take it for granted, or did you seriously learn how to disassemble your weapon? Oh, I think this is Chaco's. Yeah. Weapon without being able to look at it and become an expert with it. So I got real good at my job. Now, we aren't given a firearm as an issued item like Marines or Army. The only time you really get issued a firearm is when you're in security forces. But I got good at my job because of pure necessity. When I was saying earlier that the Navy loves doing trial by fire, I didn't mean that lightly. They will sometimes just put you in a position and say, you need to make this work.
Yeah.
If you don't make this work, stand by. And usually when they tell you to stand by, not a good thing. Yeah. So I got good through trial by fire a lot.
Yeah.
So I've learned to get good at what I do and everything that I do by just kind of jumping into it. If I ponder on it and if I plan too much, I then end up over planning, and then I end up not doing it, or I don't do it correctly because I don't kind of just jump into it. And that kind of plays into why I have so much anxiety now. If you want to get me out the house, the secret is, and I tell my wife this to tell everybody, just stop by my house. Tell me or text me and say hey, let's go right now. Okay, yeah, let's do it. If you give me a date, I will stress out, and then I will more than likely cancel because I'm riddled with anxiety about it. So getting good and my life depending on succeeding in the moment, having that pressure, because pressure makes diamonds, or pressure can make coals. I got good at working under pressure. And I did not take it for granted. I didn't assemble my weapon like an expert. Sorry, Chaco. But I did learn to find community. I learned to disassemble people. I learned to connect with people at a deeper level, not just in the uniform. So it didn't just stop at IT1. It always went on to, when we're outside, Francisco, Jyro. That's what I really devoted my energy into, knowing the people, because if you have a happy workshop, you will always have good product. And if there's anything I learned from the negatives in the military, is that having a super demoralized shop is like a death sentence for you, your division, and for the mission, because their headspace is not where it needs to be when they need to really boil down, and when they call, we need to arm up because we're in the middle of the ocean and we have pirates surrounding us. Your head can't be in the clouds when you're manning a 50 cal. So making your shop happy, disassembling the people, knowing them, and I don't take it for granted. It got me where I'm at today. It got me my life, found me my wife, So very grateful for it.
Thank you so much for those answers and those questions. Those questions and answers will be part of a collection creating connections between service members who might never ever meet, but we all share a common bond. So thank you for contributing to the ongoing conversation.
Thank you guys for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Before we wrap this up, if you could share one message with our listeners about military life, about service life, about character, about everything you learned, life lesson, what would that be?
Just to piggyback on what I said earlier, be kind. Kindness carries no matter whether you're in the service or you're out in the civilian world. You'll be surprised how much kindness can carry you. My first class, that IT1 Butler I was telling you guys about earlier, he said, show up on time, show up in what you need to show up in, do your job, do it right, go home, be happy, and be kind.
Well, Jyro, thank you for sharing your story with us today. Your honesty and vulnerability in this conversation will impact many people in many ways that you don't even know, that we don't even know. And to our listeners, remember that every service member's journey is unique, yet together we form a rich tapestry of military life. Join us next week for another compelling story from Barracks life. Until then, I'm your host, former Sergeant Kit Lovan, reminding you that where boots hit the deck, stories take flight.